Welcome back to Invictus Forum. Follow us on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook. Subscribe, share videos, like them. Send us a comment and make us to know what you think. Thank you for trusting us. The next question we'll be looking at will be characters in society. Characters can be emulated and despised or despised. Some characters can be emulated or despised. Candidates should understand that this is a question that talks about good and bad. Identify good characters who can be role models and tell us what they are good for, and bad characters who are supposed not to be imitated and what they do. In Across the Mongolo, the Faun of Arta is a character to be emulated for his love for the people. When the news of Ngwe's madness breaks in Arta, the Faun is deeply touched, like the whole community. He mobilizes the elders, mobilizes the youth and the whole community to send some young men to go to the city of Besadi and look out for Ngwe, because their son cannot be sleeping by the roadside. Their son cannot be looking very dirty as a pig. Their son cannot be eating from the rubbish heap. Ngwe is brought back to Arta, and despite an attempt by Be Alabi to bring him back to good health, which fails, the Faun instructs that some elders and some young boys should take him to Ngong, to the shrine of the Prince of Concealed Secrets. Ngwe's parents are also characters to be emulated for their love for their son. Ndi Nkemasa wants Ngwe to be educated and become an influential member like Baba Joro. He hangs on to life despite his illness because he wants to see Ngwe through school. Menyinka raises teacher Marewe as if he were her son. We also admire teacher Marewe's show of gratitude when she works, and every time she visits, she hands money to Menyinka. And she also volunteers to give Ngwe and to carve a great path of education for Ngwe. Unfortunately, he dies when Ngwe enters into the university. Dr. Ambo is another character that can be emulated for his love for Anglophones. He houses Wenkile in his apartment in the UK. He befriends Ngwe and advises Ngwe on how to go about studies on campus. He helps Ngolefek to get a scholarship to study medicine in the UK. He takes the two boys to Wankile's reception party when he is appointed as minister delegate in charge of special duties at the presidency. Among characters that can be despised are Baba Joro can be despised for his tyranny, inhumanity, violence, and greed. Baba Joro is the proprietor of Kamangola and rules it like a personal property. He has no respect for human life. He makes people to disappear. He kills people like one kills flies on a wall. He makes the people to live in terror, and they mention his name only in whispers. He has a brutal place that tortures and has instruments of torture like the balançoire. Shirela is also a character that can be despised for her infidelity and materialism. Although she claims that she loves Ngwe, she is still in a romantic relationship with Mr. Abeso. She confesses to Ngwe that she is dating Mr. Abeso simply because he offers her material gifts. Other characters to be despised are Quenti, for being so corrupt. Despite being in charge of awarding scholarships to students, he prefers to collect bribes from Anglophone students in order for their names to be added on the scholarship list. And the gendarme, who is disrespectful, violent, and corrupt. He slaps the old man and asks him to sit on the floor, and he collects money from drivers before he gives back their car documents. In Lake God, She Boyo is a character to be emulated for his sense of duty and dignity and love for his community. He constantly reminds the fawn that neglecting his royal duties will cause the community to be befallen with a catastrophe. While in the sacred grove, he continues to intercede with the gods that their anger should not rise against the community. The women are also characters to be emulated for their hard work. They produce all the food in Gamba that feeds the community. They also have love for their community, as they are putting pressure on their husbands to put pressure on the fawn to perform the sacrifice so as to avoid a catastrophe. They are also incorruptible, as they refuse to receive bribe from the fawn when he wants to give them money, when they visit him to ask him to send away the cattle rearers. Another character to be despised is Father Leo, because he is corrupt and manipulative. He bribes kingmakers in order for Joseph to be put on the throne. He also uses the money which he gives to the fawn to manipulate him and render him powerless, controlling him and asking him what to do and what not to do. It should be noted that it is the influence of Father Leo that makes the fawn not to perform the sacrifice to the lake god. That leads to the catastrophe that destroys the village. Fawn Joseph is also a character to be despised for his greed. He refuses to send away the cattle rearers because some of the cattle belong to him. He is also corrupt. Instead of settling the women's problem, he decides to give them money, and he is incompetent. He cannot assume his royal duties and perform them. He is unable to lead the people to perform the sacrifice to the lake god and to give the people an heir by taking a new wife. Another character that can be emulated is Angela, for her love for her family. She's a dedicated teacher who teaches the children in the village. Above all, she loves her husband and tells her husband to take a second wife so that he can give an heir to his subject. And she also advises him to listen to the advice of his subject once in a while so that there should be peace in the community. In A Walk in the Night, Lorenzo's wife is a character to be emulated for her love and respect for human life. She refuses to abort her baby as demanded by her husband for financial reasons, but she refuses to do so because she respects human life. Willie Boy should also be emulated for his love for Africans. He is not happy in the manner in which the prostitutes are treated by the sailors in a dehumanizing and disrespectful way, thereby forcing him to engage himself in a fight with the white sailors. Uncle Dotty is also a character to be emulated for his show of love and concern when he tries to comfort Michael Adonis when he loses his job. Unfortunately, the comfort tends to be a bitter pill to swallow because he loses his life in the process. Characters that are supposed to be despised includes Willie Boy, whom instead of making other ways to have a living, he is involved in petty crime. And the consequence is that he ends up losing his life because he is designated as the prime suspect for the death of Uncle Dotty. The racist police that harasses Michael on the street, drags him on the ground because they think he might have been planning for an armed robbery because they consider blacks to be criminals. Constable Hart is a character to be despised for his hatred for black people, his racist tendency, his violent nature, and his lack of human feelings. He slaps Chips for making a joke, shoots Willie Boy at close range, refuses an ambulance to be called to save his life, throws him behind the police van, and allows him to bleed to death while he engages in a fruitless conversation with the cigarette vendor. Foxy and his gang are also characters to be despised because they involve themselves in criminality and violence in the community instead of using their time to earn money in an honest manner. The young prostitute girls at Mrs. Gypsy's prostitute joint are also characters to be despised because they have turned into prostitution, selling their bodies to men to earn a living, thereby dishonoring not only themselves but womanhood. They could have made life or earn a living in a more decent way by doing some little business, but they transform their bodies to be the merchandise to be sold to whoever has the money to pay for it. In Madame Bovary, Mrs. Bovary and Charles are characters that are supposed to be emulated for their love for their loved ones. Mrs. Bovary does all that she can to put her son in a medical school, keep him there until he graduates despite his intellectual limitations and his unsocial behavior. On the other hand, Charles loves Emma, takes her to the theater, enrolls her in a piano class. Whenever she falls sick, he gets her back to her feet. And despite a suicidal note that exposes her infidelity, he still forgives her for everything. Characters that are supposed to be despised include Emma, who is despised for her promiscuous life. Although married, she is also engaging in extramarital affairs. She is flirtatious and unfaithful woman, full of hypocrisy. Mrs. Bovary can also be despised for her hypocrisy and materialism. She engages her son in a marriage which love is not the focus, but material things. In the cask of Amontillado, Montresor's family is a family to be despised for their unforgiving nature and lack of respect for human life. They kill their enemies, allow them to rot without the decency of giving them a burial. Montresor should be despised for his hypocrisy and man's inhumanity. He pretends to be happy with his friend, whereas he bears a grudge. He takes him into the catacomb and buries him alive. Lastly, Fortunato should be despised for his lack of control when it comes to alcohol. It is because of his drunken nature that he had insulted Montresor, and he becomes powerless in the catacomb, leading him to be buried alive.